Okay. All right. So welcome everyone to Slay Your Surveys with Qualtrics Essentials. My name is Nathaniel Steinlicht, and I'll be co-presenting with Masum Rana. We're both in the Office of Research and Innovation in the School of Health Sciences. And so to give you kind of an outline of what we're going to talk about today, these are sort of the general things. And you'll notice it's going to be common uses for Qualtrics, introduction to Qualtrics, adding and customizing questions, survey distributions, and basic data analytics, both in Qualtrics and then as getting your data out so you can do it in whatever your platform is of choice. We'll have some Q&A at the end, and also some chance to do some hands-on stuff. Um, I will mention though, we're not going to talk about writing survey questions, mainly because there was already a training done that's great. I will, slides will also get put up, but it was done by the University Library's Digital Scholarship Program. They did a great hour training. They covered all of the normal pitfalls for writing survey questions, how to write survey questions well. And so if you go on the slides, click on the link here, it'll take you to a Panopto recording. You have to use your USD login to get in, but watch it. It's great. Even if you've done a lot of surveys before and you just want a refresher, you learn some things. I've done a lot of surveys in my time. I've learned a lot of great things in terms of question order, color choice, etc. So it's a really great resource. But we won't be doing writing questions today. We're only going to be talking about how do you use Qualtrics. And the better question is, what do you use Qualtrics for? And I'll maybe ask people to put some things in the chat, like what if you've used Qualtrics before, what have you primarily used it for? Or you can feel free to come off mute. It's not a big group, so Jess, the trainings that we do will be on the D2L page for research. Um, so if you just log into D2L, you should be able to see that. If not, I will get you added afterwards here. So yeah, survey studies, student questionnaires, very common. That's mostly what I've used them for too. Alumni surveys. Yeah. Qualtrics is a survey platform. So you use it a lot for mainly data collection for research. You could also use it as a registration form for events, so say you're doing a conference, you want people to register for the conference, you can have name, department, email, address, etc. That's another thing I've done for as well. Registration for programs. We've done this for some of our grant programs where students need to apply for something. And so it's a really customizable way to get things set up. We can even have students load in things like a CV or a resume so that they can further see, oh, this is what it is. And then you can have Qualtrics just send you an email when someone applies so you can review the application. Um, sometimes you'll need to log interactions with either study participants or students if you're trying to keep track of some of those things. It can be a good way to log that because then you are just taking the survey yourself and logging interactions. And then there are also ways to do tests and quizzes, although not for USD courses. But say you're doing some sort of extracurricular thing, a continuing education course outside of USD, you can set graded responses and scores to multiple choice questions so it can grade all the responses for you if that's something you needed to do. And it can do so much more. Qualtrics has a bunch of different examples and templates for how you can use the platform or how they've seen the platform used in the past. So there's a lot of cool uses, and it is very customizable once you have sort of gotten used to how it works. Um, so if a lot of you have been using it for surveys, you probably know how to get it, but for people who don't, this is the link. This will get you to USD's login. You'll log in like you do anything else, logging into the portal, D2L, etc., your USD name, username and password, and then it will take you to this screen down here. This is mine. This is the home page. It shows you a bunch of different things. A lot of your recently visited projects over here on the left. If you've been shared, so sometimes you'll collaborate with other people and they'll create things in Qualtrics and share it with you. Those will show up on the top. And then active surveys, it'll show you your most recent active surveys. Um, so, and then just to give you an idea, if you haven't navigated Qualtrics or don't really know sort of some of the different things, Up in the top left of the Qualtrics home screen, there's this three-line button at home. This opens a bunch of tabs or opens up a drop-down box where there are a bunch of tab options. And a lot of these, if you're not using Qualtrics for really advanced things, won't be super relevant to you. But the two that are most important and most used, or at least that I use the most, are going to be the projects and the directories. The projects is where is your survey. So each survey is a project, and the directory is where you're storing um, email information or contact information. So say if you're using Qualtrics is a platform to send out the survey. You can manage the emails that you're using to send out to different surveys. You can manage the stock template emails that you're using to send out as well. But Masum will cover some of that a little bit more. Um, Also, you can see all, again, you can click the see all projects to view all of your projects, and then you can create new projects. Um, if you were to click on the create the new projects button, this is the initial screen you'll see. And I must admit, I frequently do not use Qualtrics templates because oftentimes they're a little bit more designed than I need them to be, and they're also a bit generic. But you can get some good ideas about different programs, different things you can do, different use cases, as you can see over here on the left, um, for doing a bunch of different things. Or also what your population is, whether it's, employees, students, etc. But I always start from scratch basically because then I can build things up from there. And we're going to do that in a minute, but I want to review some question types first. These are sort of the common ones when I went through. Qualtrics has a bunch more than this. But these are probably the ones you're most likely to encounter and use, and you're probably most familiar with. Everybody knows multiple choice, text entry. The text and graphic one is literally, it is a question, but you just put in some text or a graphic. And it is great if you need to display like an introduction, or if you have an IRB form and you need to display your IRB form at the beginning of your survey. It's a great way to put it in there because you need to have the stamp showing your IRB was approved. So you use that type of question to put your PDF in there basically, so that they can view and know that it's approved. A matrix table, that's a very common question point of, a bunch of dots, and then it's, questions on the left, and then, strongly agree to strongly disagree, or however you want to have your Likert scales. Um, that's very common as well. Sliders is just a different version of, this typical multiple choice things, except it's a slider. Form fields are things where if you're doing a more application registration type thing, asking them to put in a name, an email address, etc. It's easier to standardize some of those. You have some more options that Qualtrics gives you there. Rank order, you want people to rank from, 1 to 5, the top 5 best Christmas songs of all time, etc. I'm going to use a lot of Christmas analogies just because it's that time of year, but it could be whatever. So if that gets to be people, I'll try to think of other analogies too. Um, File upload, that's what I was talking about, where you could have people upload CVs, resumes, photos. So if you're doing a study where you're asking people to make something or do something or share something, that could be something as well. And then a signature. So if you want to do a signature to verify that they consent to your IRB or consent to your study, you can. That's not necessarily a requirement these days. Usually you can just have a box saying, I agree. But you can if you need a signature for something as well. It does pop up a little thing where they either have to draw it with their mouse or if they're on phone, they can use the touchscreen. So it's not the best signature thing in the world, but you can use it if you want. All right. So now let's actually go to survey here, if it will let me get out of things. All right. All right, so this is a very blank survey, and I just picked a couple of generic questions. So I'm going to start with the text one because that's usually how most surveys start anyway. So you have an introduction explaining what the survey is. Maybe you have an IRB if it's subject to IRB, etc. So let's say just do hello. But that's not the greatest way. What if we want to make it look nicer? And since it's the Qualtrics training, I could click on this rich content editor in here, and this gives me a lot more options to edit it. I could put in a video if I had a video I wanted to explain, but mostly I usually use pictures. So I could just put in a picture, and now the picture is here. And it works just like that. You can easily change the picture, move things around by going in that editor. Right? And now it does not want to scroll down. Okay. So this is multiple choice. And I will say, if you have questions, want me to stop, feel free to come off mute at any time. Um, I'll walk through some of these and then we can do other things if you want for some of these questions, because I know some people have different things they're maybe thinking about doing. And happy to help. So I'll start with the multiple choice and customizing this. The most common thing with multiple choice is Qualtrics defaults to 3 for all questions. So say you want 5 because there are a lot of other people who work in Santa's workshop, like Santa, and also maybe Frosty the Snowman. So you want to add a couple more. That's an example. You can also change how they're formatted. Um, Horizontal. That is actually one of the things I learned when I was working with the Center for Disabilities. Having horizontally displayed Likert scale questions is actually more accessible and easy to use. So that's something you may want to think about as well when you're considering doing it. You can also, instead of having it be buttons, you can have it be a drop-down box. So you can pick those. Although sometimes if you're expecting people might not take it on a computer, um, it can be a little harder too, for drop-down boxes or a select box where they'll just pick it. I usually default to list because that's a lot of times what people expect to see when they think about multiple choice questions, and it's usually better for both computer and mobile. Um, I'll cover response requirements now. These are sort of standard for across all of the Qualtrics questions types, but you can add a requirement. This requirement means you will either force it, meaning they cannot submit or go to the next page without answering this question, or you can request it. And what this is if they don't fill it out and they try to get to the next page, it'll send them a little pop-up saying, hey, please fill out this. So that could be something you want to do if you don't want to necessarily require someone to do it, but you think, if you've got a lot of questions, you may want to say, hey, you missed one. Are you sure you don't want to provide a response for this? And so that's a way to get around that and have people think about that a little more. And then validation. So you could have it set up so that they will only, so that you could cross check and say, hey, you selected elves as working hard in Santa's workshop last year. Are you sure you want to have them be the ones who are working in hard in Santa's workshop this year? It's less so, we do that less so for multiple choice questions and more for entry questions, because then you can do things like saying, oh, you're asking them to put in a phone number. And so this should look like a phone number and it should have 9 digits, and Qualtrics will check all of that for you. So let's go to that then and say, okay, so we're text entry validation. So you can set a minimum length, a maximum length. So say you know that all they want for Christmas is going to be five letters long, which is probably not the case, or a maximum length. You could do that, especially if you're asking people's ages, because people's ages probably aren't going to be more than 3. So then you prevent people from writing out letters. Um, you can also prevent people from writing too much, too little, etc. You can also select content type. So that's what I was talking about, whether it's an email address, a phone number, state, a date, etc. Um, or you could do custom. And this is again looking at setting it up so a response like this. You don't really do that for text as much, but um, you get validation is a good way to make sure you're helping people make sure they're giving you good data. And so you're not at the end, you have 100 survey responses and You're not having to go back and clean all the people who said, I'm 15 in words and 15 in letters, and I was born in 1960. And so then you have to figure it all out. Thinking about validation helps save you a lot of time um, in the analysis stage and not having to clean as much and gets you better data from the start. Um, I will go back to the multiple choice questions just to show one other thing, and that's display logic and skip logic. So display logic means it will only display a question if you have a certain answer. So for this one, let's say who is working hard in Santa's workshop? If they say elves, um, they will own if elves is selected, this question, if elves is selected, then question, right? So, and it's display logic is for the question you have selected. So for question two is display logic. If they selected elves in question one, this will only display. So that limits it out. So it's a way to say, so say you ask someone, are they a veteran? And then you want to ask, well, how long did they serve? You don't want to ask people who aren't veterans how long they served because it's not relevant. So you can choose not to display it. Another option is to skip it or to add skip logic. This gets a little trickier in how you manage things, but it basically will skip to the next question and does the same thing, but it adds a little bit of a greater complexity to how your surveys are structured. So I typically stick with display, um, especially for more succinct surveys. If you're doing a larger, long survey with 40 questions, or if you ask someone if there is a veteran and you have probably 5 or 6 questions where you're just going to be talking about what their experience is and their time as a veteran, and then you have more you're going to do that's maybe not related, then you might want to consider doing a skip logic question. But if it's really only one question, I'd stick to display. But skip logic is set up essentially the same way as display logic. Questions about any of that so far? All right. Okay, so I'm going to move on to matrix questions. This is probably one you've seen a lot if you've taken a lot of surveys, done a lot of surveys. The nice thing is Qualtrics will fill in a suggested scale for you for this. You can change that using this option here. You can say displeased, extremely displeased, ideals, um, dislike, like. There are a lot of great ones, or you can customize it depending on if you're using like a standardized survey and there are standardized scales that go along with it. They might not necessarily be in Qualtrics, but you can. Over here are your options for each of these, and you could change them up as much as you like. And simple, you can add another statement and say, drinking hot. I have a hard time spelling. Um, And it doesn't necessarily need to be Likert. Likert's probably what you're going to use it the most, but you can do things like which do you prefer more using a bipolar. So baking cookies or baking cakes, shopping for gifts or shopping for gifts online or shopping for gifts in person, ice skating or hockey, drinking hot cocoa, drinking coffee. Those sorts of things. Those are all examples, not necessarily meaningful to anything, but if you have things you're wanting to compare to, that's definitely a thing that a lot of people try to look at alternatives. Other ones including rank order, where you can say this is number one, and it doesn't necessarily make sense for this, but it's number two, this number three, this. Um, it again, like rank, I wouldn't necessarily use a rank order for a matrix, but it's a thing you can do if you want. Again, Likert usually probably what you're going to use the most. Um, There are a lot of other things here. You can transpose tables. So say you want the options on the top and not on the bottom or on the left, you can change that. You could change where all of the text position is above, and you could add additional space to make it a little more readable as well. Questions on Matrix? All right, so then a couple more, or one more, and then I'll ask if there are any additional suggestions. So if there's other question types you've thought of and you want to see what they look like in Qualtrics, or you want to see something more, either put it in the chat or think about it and come off me once I'm done talking about rank orders. And so rank orders are important questions because sometimes we want to know what people prefer the most and what they prefer the least. And then we could sort of do some analysis to figure out what the group prefers the most. And so for this question, how would you rank hot beverages? I have four options here. They can essentially rank them by different ones. And you can have change the format to be drag and drop. Um, I like that just because it's a little more interactive, but you can do radio ones where they have to select a one, a two, a three, and a four. Um, or you can use a text box where they have to put in one, two, three, four, or a select box where they select one, two, three, and four. Um, Again, I like drag and drop the best, but it's all your preferences. And another thing to emphasize when you're designing surveys, both writing questions and then getting a platform together, that I'll mention now is it's good to test it out, even if you don't necessarily have, maybe you're not able to test it out with the people you're studying, share it with your colleagues, share it with other people in your field. Maybe have your students test it if you're able to do that. Just have a couple people take it and run it through to make sure, especially if you're using a lot of display or skip logic, to make sure that's working right. But also, how do the questions feel? Are they working right? Is it easy to use, etc. Um, so that's rank order. Any other types of surveys that people want to look at? I can pull up the whole big long list here too if there's. These are again just the more common ones. Anything else? All right, so then I'm going to go back to our slides, get the slideshow started back up here, and I think I will turn it over to Masum to talk about getting your survey out to people. Masum, I am sharing the PowerPoint slide, so do
Okay.
you want me to just stop sharing so you can look at Qualtrics itself?
No, you can share and I can just talk. So, are you? Oh no, you can stop the sharing.
Okay, sounds good. Should all be able to see Masum's screen now. And if you can't, let us know.
So, are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
So, all right. So, as we do not have response of the Nathaniel survey, which the Nathaniel created just right now, so I have some couple of surveys and it's still active and I'm getting the responses. So, for betterment, I'm just showing one of my current project. Take for example, I have a survey job pair registration. So now I want to distribute this survey to get some data or to responses. So I need to click the distribution button here. So there are a couple of way I can distribute my survey. I can send it through the anonymous link. So take for example, I got this link. I can copy it to the email or in the chat, whatever want. I can send it through to this link, or as the link is longer, I can do it shorter in the bit.ly or bit.ly, just copy and paste the link. So as the link was longer in bit.ly or bit.ly, the link will give me shorter. So I can send it to the email or any other ways like chat, whatever it is I want to send. I can send the survey to the email. Just click the compose email and I can create a contact list. Just email, first name, last name, or take for example, I want to send an email to Nathan. So it's taking time as I'm creating the first time for the list. So now I can write the email and hey, just respond this survey, the survey based on job fair. So I can write my email and send it in, I can put a survey, job fair. So I can send it in 1 hour or right now, whatever I want. So I'm not sending it right now. I'll, I can also generate the personal link to individual people to for the track. Take for example, I want to send one link to Nathaniel and one link is to Clara so that I can track the individual person who are the responding, who are not responding. I can also send the my survey to SMS or social media. So if I send it my survey through the X or Twitter, Facebook, it will give me different kind of link for different kind of platform. I can also send my survey through the QR code. I, I can download it. I can attach my email or I can print it and in a pamphlet or anywhere else and I can collect the data. Then I want to monitor the responses like how many answers I got from my survey or real time real time analysis like those who are responding, who are not responding, which questions I'm getting answer, which question I'm not getting answer. I can see in the result button here. So take for example in this question there are 4 people responded yes and 4 people responded no. So in this question I got 4 response no. So I can monitor real time by clicking the result tab and now the data and analysis things. Take for example, I got my all data through the my link or whatever it is. Then I want to analyze this whole survey. Before that, I want to give just these things like text IQ. This is the advanced analytics. So we'll not discuss about these things today. The text IQ is for like if you want to analyze a particular sentence or particular text, it will analyze it through the natural language processing and machine learning things. And for state IQ, it will analyze like regression, ANOVA test, t-test, or any other advanced statistics things for your survey. And for the cross tab, if you want to compare different kind of like categories, take for example, you want to compare the how many males or how many females or demographic of any regions, you can do it through the cross tab IQ. And for weighting button, you can take for example, you can balance your survey response. Take for example, you are getting the response 70% on female and 50% on male, but you want to balance it. So or you want to unbias it, you can do it by weighting. Now we want to do data analysis of our current survey. So these are my question. Take for example, how many of them are given me yes, how many percentage or how many people are given me no. I can visualize it, and I can change the color template here. Take for example, I want to do it line chart. It's not showing me the correct line chart because I have lesser responses right now. So it's better for bar chart. And I can also my personal images, texts, or any other things, or personal visualization through the data and analysis, and I can then generate the report and share it to like other people, or I can download it to the PDF version, or I can share it to the personalized link by clicking here. I think that's it for me. Do you have any question till now?
So if nobody has any other questions, we'll sort of we'll conclude for the rest of the day. If you think of any other questions later, feel free to email us. You can email our office at ori@usd.edu. We do these trainings once a month. I believe January is, I'm blanking on what we said the training for January was, but be on the lookout if you're not a part of our listserv. That's ori-list@usd.edu. We can, again, just email us. We can get you set up. We send out frequently. We try to do at least once or twice a month. Some infographics, sort of sharing a different topic. We've done things on, how much can you pay students based on if they're a grad assistant or an hourly student? What indirect rate you should do if you're doing a lot of grant writing, IRB questions, human subjects. We try to cover a lot of different things through those. Again, we put those all in the research cell. If you're not a part of that, drop me a link and I will make sure you're added to after the fact. There's stuff up on there, including all of these trainings and this recording, and the slides will be up there as well um, if you need it. Otherwise, the other plug I will make is the Office of Research does what's called Research Buddies, which is a research collaboration where we meet usually once every other month. For about an hour, we talk about a certain topic. At this point, during this, we've been reading, or this semester, we've been reading through Write No Matter What, which is trying to give you strategies on how to write more academic writing, overcome some of the challenges and the, you know, stigma that we sometimes put on ourselves in terms of writing academic publications. And we meet as a big group, and then we try to meet with our research buddies. So you're partnered with someone else who has a similar interest or similar sort of academic level as you. Um, and try to meet it. I try to meet with my buddy at least once a month, and we try to hold each other accountable for different writing goals, research goals, etc. And it's been very helpful. So if you are interested in joining, be anybody can join in at any time. If you're interested in that, it's not that big of a time commitment, and it is very helpful for growing your academic presence. So if you're interested, you can email Bridget Diamond Welch, or you can email Ori at usd.edu and we can get you some more information as well. If anybody else doesn't, I'll pause again just to see if there's any other questions as I've been talking. All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.